vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. I am your host, Mario Di Leone, where we talk about all things workplace, all things self-esteem, all things confidence, and all things leadership. And today's episode is going to be a difficult pill for some people to swallow. Fired. Have you been fired? Have you been fired from your previous job and you're focusing backward, rather than forward? Well, that's the episode title. Fired, focus forward and not backward. And that's the thing. You can't go forward if you're looking in the rearview mirror. It's really simple. It sounds cliche, but you know what? Sometimes a cliche contains a strong piece of truth that needs to be assimilated. That being said, I just want to welcome all you good old champions to the show. Welcome back to the Voices of Victory podcast. This is where we tackle a lot of life's curveballs with confidence, candor, and maybe even a little bit of comedy just to keep things light. And this is all about getting fired. Yes, I said it, getting fired. It happens, but here's the deal. You're not your last job. That's the thing. When you're a carpenter, everything is a hammer and everything is a nail. But you are not your last job. We have the tendency to tie our results, our external results, to our self-esteem. And unless you were a professional mascot, then guess what? You're literally wearing your job. But for most of us, that's not entirely true. What matters is what's next, not what's in the rearview mirror. So let's go ahead and dive in. It's an uncomfortable truth. It's an uncomfortable truth that maybe you've been fired. So you've got fired. Ouch. I get it. I understand. It stings worse than stepping on a Lego on a hot summer day. But here's the thing. Firing isn't a life sentence, and you shouldn't make it one. It's just a chapter, not the whole book. It's just a piece. It's just a sliver. But if you're always rereading that chapter and always going backwards, and you're asking the loop question. Here's the dangerous loop question. Why? Why did it happen? Why? When you ask a loop question like why, your brain will simply fill in the blank. So if I say to myself negatively, why am I so fat? My brain will say, because you got your head in the fridge all day long. So whenever you ask why, it is a loop question, a question that is on repeat, much like a broken record or an old CD, if you actually remember that. If you actually do comprehend the generational technology aspect of that. But what we can understand with that is it is a loop question. And the more you ask it, the more your brain will provide a response, and the more it will keep you depressed. The more it will keep you unhappy. You'll never get to the part where you win the Nobel Prize in your story, or at least land a better job, if you're constantly asking the why. The why. Why did that happen to me? Why does that always happen to me? Why does my life suck? Why does it? Your brain will fill in the gap. Your brain will fill in that gap and just reinforce that narrative, reinforce that story, and attach it to your identity even more. It's going to make it harder on you to get another job. Matter of fact, it'll make it harder on you to be in the process daily, the daily process of doing the work to find another job, because you're in the past. You're not living in the now. You're living in the past. And if you're playing the what if game, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if they interview me and they don't like me? What if they find out if I was fired, right? You start playing the future what if game. So that's where it happens. We fall into the what if future and the why past, and we forget how to become a good interviewee and focus on what to do in the now, today, in this moment, doing the work, hitting the ground running and putting our resume out there to millions of people, getting it out there, doing the labor, putting our focus on what we can control versus what we can't. Because you can't control the future, you certainly can't control the past. but you can do what you can now to the utmost 100% of your ability for what's next. That's what it's all about. Now, what not to do? What should we not do? Do not show up in their interview as Captain Bitterness, okay? Recounting every misstep you had from your last role and how you hated Bob in cubicle number 7. No, don't spend the entire conversation hoping they don't ask you why you left. Prepare. Do mock interviews as much as you can. Prepare. Do not panic. If they ask you why you left, you got to answer. Okay, you've got to answer. I get it. And you can have a response. And you could say easily, the company and I parted ways and we had different visions for the future. It was an opportunity for me to take time out to reassess my goals and align myself with what I really wanted and align my values with where I was going. Bam. Short, sweet, neutral. So neutral you could be Switzerland, right? And by the way, my best friend's Swiss. So anyway, that being said, living in the past stops you from winning in the present. Let me just break it down for you. If your brain is stuck playing the greatest hits of your worst day all the time, you're missing the now. You're missing today. You're missing the work that needs to be done. And guess what? That unemployment, it's going to run out. It's got a time limit. And here's the kicker. The now is where the magic actually happens. That's where the opportunities are. They're not hanging out in the past, and they're certainly not in the future. They're right here in the present waiting for you to show up and actually crush it. It's about exploring the terrain. Like, you could be really nervous with the level of uncertainty that exists, but it's just like going out in the wilderness. You could be a little fearful about the environment you're in, but it's also exploratory. Getting curious is a power. It's a power that you can adopt. Imagine you're walking forward while staring backward. You're going to hit something. It's not profound. It's bad footwork. Next thing you know, you're tripping over. You're tripping over today, and you're landing face first into tomorrow's problems. Avoid doing that. Please stay present. When it comes to confidence and moving on, the big question is, what if I feel like getting fired ruined my confidence? And it might have actually ruined your confidence. First of all, it's normal to feel that way. Nobody gets fired and immediately thinks, oh, how exciting, a new adventure. Unless, of course, they're lying. But here's the deal. Confidence isn't about what happened. It's about how you respond. Fate is what happens to you. Destiny is what you decide to do with it. And you can live by default and do nothing, because a cause set in motion, doing something is a cause set in motion, and doing nothing is a cause set in motion as well. And you have to think of it like this. You wouldn't let one bad meal make you swear off food forever. You just avoid that restaurant and stop eating that dish. Same thing with your career. A bad moment doesn't define you unless you attach it to your self-esteem. It can indeed refine you and redirect you. A setback can be a setup for a set forward. I learned that from the public speaker, Willie Jolly. Now, that being said, preparing for interview questions when it happens, right? What if they don't ask why I left my last role? Then don't bring it up. Seriously, it's not a confession booth. Keep the conversation focused on what you bring to the table. Talk about your skills, your wins, and how you can solve the problem. That's the bottom line. If they do decide to ask you, here's your play with that. First of all, you're going to have to be honest, but you're going to have to be extremely strategic. You could easily say, the company and I had different goals, so I took a chance to explore new opportunities. And then you have to pivot right back to the job you're applying for. Keep it classy, keep it concise, and for goodness sake, keep it moving forward. Now, when it comes to this whole area, resilience is important. Please maintain your resilience. Self-care equals self-discipline, but self-care helps your resilience as well. That's the secret sauce to some degree. Life tossed a pie in your face. It's uncomfortable. It sucks. And now you got a couple choices. Is sit there covered in custard, or wipe it off, laugh, and order another dessert. And remember, every successful person has faced some kind of setback, and setbacks can be setups for set forwards. So what makes those people different is they didn't let it define who they are. So yes, it can be difficult. It can be a big process. So in closing thoughts for everybody here, getting fired isn't the end of the world. It's a plot twist. And sometimes you can literally find the beauty in it if you look. Only if you look will that insight exist. If we get so hooked up in the drama, we become blind to the insights that are actually present. And let's face it, a good story needs a few plot twists every now and then. So stop staring at the past like it's the last bagel at a brunch buffet at an old age home. Focus on what you can do today. Grab opportunities today. Mock interviews. Practice your mock interviews. There's plenty of mock interviews online. If you Google mock mock virtual interviews. You will start to get better as an interviewee. This has been a Voices of Victory podcast. Get out there, champions. Get that next job. Keep going, keep going. And there's one last thing I want to tell you, something that I've learned that's absolutely beautiful, and then we're going to cut the show right there. Reality is data. We have emotions. We are emotional people, but reality is information. What we taste, what we smell, what we hear, what we see. It's all data. It's all info. We still have the emotions, but the emotional resistance is what stops us more often than not. And what I want to explain to you is that possibility becomes probability when new information is introduced. Let me say that to you again. Possibility of getting a job can become probability of getting a job when new information is introduced. You can get new information about the job, new information about the company. Like the more information you get, the more it supports your direction. So reality can shift from the possibility to the probability when there's new information introduced. And you might be saying, how is this true? Ask any lawyer. Court cases that do a 180, they do a 180 because new information was introduced in some way, shape, or form. It can go from a probable case to a possible case to a probable case because new information, new evidence, new data was introduced. That's the truth. That's the truth. New information can move you forward. Have a great day. See you in the next episode.